Hi, my name is Jenny Licken, and I'm a member of Google EDU, which is Google's learning and development organization. And I'm really excited to host Steve Sisgold today for a tech talk on how to increase resilience and reduce stress by improving body awareness. As we've seen in several recent Health at Google Tech Talks, including one featuring Dr. John Kabat-Zinn and another featuring Dr. Daniel Siegel, body awareness is a key element in cultivating a more integrated mind. We, as humans, experience distinct physiological responses to emotions in our bodies. By learning to be more aware of our own physiology, we can better understand and integrate our body's messages and not override them, which can lead to dysregulation, stress, and illness. As an author, speaker, practitioner, and coach, Steve has helped thousands of people access their innate body intelligence to create better health and more authentic relationships. Steve's latest book, What's Your Body Telling You?, is a step-by-step guide teaching readers how to raise their body awareness intelligence so they can successfully navigate with better focus and concentration and more clarity about fears, while avoiding knee-jerk reactions. Prior to his work as a consultant in this field, Steve applied the same principles he teaches now in the business world. He owned and directed a successful advertising and PR firm and was also the top salesperson in a Fortune 500 company. Steve has also been a coach to best-selling self-help authors, Grammy Award winners, business leaders, and holistic practitioners. Steve holds advanced degrees in business and communications and certifications in body-centered psychotherapy and relationship counseling. He's also appeared on several national TV and radio networks. This talk is part of the Health at Google speaker series, so afterwards, please feel free to share your feedback at go/healthatsurvey. And if somehow you haven't seen it yet, please check out the Optimize Your Life webpage, which is at go/OIL. And with that, we're excited to have Steve begin his talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you so much. Come on in. I'm very happy to have such a big group. I so thank you for spending the time and taking the time to come out. I want to thank Jenny. I've really enjoyed our conversations around consciousness and the body. So thank you for inviting me to share my story and share some tips. Come on in. We're all going to get really interactive today. It's going to be, everybody's going to get a chance to practice what I call whole body consciousness, and we're going to raise our BQ. I came up with BQ as a kind of a short term for, the fact that sometimes we forget we have a body. I know I forget. And how that can work is we could be driving and not even realizing, because we're thinking about something that happened yesterday, and then we're thinking about something that's going to happen, like at our 10 o'clock meeting, and we're gripping the wheel and we have no idea. Can you relate? You know how many times that happens? Yeah. Or like our shoulders are up to our ears and we have no idea because we're thinking, but we're not really aware, what's happening in my body? And then what happens is we get to work or we get to our project or our presentation, we're like, I got a sore neck and I wonder why, I have no idea. So it's just an interesting perspective to take a look at our whole body. And what I thought I would do, I was tell you a little bit about my journey first, how I got into this, how did I write a book, What's Your Body Telling You? It wasn't something I was planning to do. And it started professionally. I went to school, I had a master's degree in communications, and during those years in college, the veil got lifted. I don't know if you ever heard of Dr. Quantum, Fred Allen Wolf. He says, what used to be real is unreal, and what was unreal became real. And that's happened for me quite a few times. And during my college years, I really saw the world in a different way, and I wanted to do something about it. I wanted to see some change, just as far as, well, what could I do to help the world be a gentler, more peaceful, compassionate place? What could I do? And I got this idea while I was in school studying communications that I could help causes and people that I believed in. And I started, as Jenny said, in advertising and a promotion business, public relations. But here's what happened. No matter what I wrote, no matter how I coached someone, I would watch them get up and deliver, whether it was a TV ad or a speech or whatever it was, they would deliver it, and I noticed a few things. Number one, I noticed they weren't breathing. I know that sounds kind of funny, but I'd noticed they'd be holding their breath and talking, and then secondly, I noticed they would be saying one thing, and their body language would be saying something else. I became really curious, like, what's that incongruency? Because you've probably heard the term the law of attraction. Has anybody heard that term? I feel like the law of attraction isn't just sitting and waiting for something to happen, but actually embodying it. So if we have a vision, or if I have something I want to really get across, I've got to get it in here. Or you'll say, well, that's interesting. He's talking about, stress, but he's all hunched up. Or he's saying one thing and his body language is saying something else. So I became really curious about that, and I traveled and learned and kept asking questions. Then I went back to school and got what's called a body-centered psychotherapy certificate. I learned about somatic psychology and cellular memory. We'll be going through some of that today. And then I started just telling people, I'm going to help people manifest, create, get what you want through looking at the body as another tool. How can we go into the intelligence of the body? I call it your personal Google. I don't know how you feel about that, but I've said that several times when I'm out there. I say, as your personal Google, when you have a question, take a moment and see, because our body's been there from day one. I call it the library of your flesh. Imagine, everything that's ever happened is stored somewhere in our cellular memory. So it's a great place to access. So I learned more and started getting into that. And then I started working with some people, and I'll tell you about some of those stories as we go along. I want to share an earlier story to give you an idea of where I even got further into this, and maybe it started. I was about 9 years old, and I was sitting at my family table, and my dad worked as a manager of a food store. And he would come home, and everything would be pretty routine. He would come home kind of slouched and tired, and we'd have dinner, and that would be it. But one day, my dad came home, and something was different. He was like walking around like this, and I was like, ooh, something's happening for Dad. I got to ask. Don't forget, I'm a little kid, so, I have to watch my boundaries there. But anyway, I spoke up, and I said, hey, Dad, what's up? You look really different. You look happy or something. And I'd never heard this before from my dad. He said, I have a dream. I was like, wow, I never heard my dad. Has anybody heard their parents say, I have a dream? I never did. So my dad said, I have a dream. I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is great, Dad. And I was kind of a little curious guy, And I said, well, tell us about the dream. And my dad said, well, I've always wanted to own my own business. And I think I found it today. And all of a sudden, when you have a lift, or you're excited, or you have a dream, or an inspiration, your energy goes up. I mean, that's the law of physics. You throw a ball up, it comes down. I've studied the Yoga Sutras. It says your energy goes up. Like, oh, I want to write a book. But then in a little while, the energy goes down. It kind of descends. So I watched this. And I watched my dad say, yeah, I've got a dream. I want to have this business. And then he looked over at my mom, and everything changed. All of a sudden, he started to sink. And I went, whoa. And my mom said, well, and she had her reason. Well, what about the check every Friday? We got 2 kids we're feeding. I don't know about that dream. So like many of us, can you relate? Have you ever had an instinct? You're like, and you're really excited, and all it takes is one person to go, I don't think that's a good idea. And we just kind of put it away, right? You can relate to that? So my mom played that role, and my dad had his dream, and I felt something I'd never felt before. I felt this feeling coursing through my body, and I didn't know what to do with it. I thought, well, there's Mom, there's Dad, I'm at a choice point. Of course, I didn't call it that back then. And I thought, well, I'll just ignore it. And all of a sudden, something happened that kind of came out of my body, and all of a sudden, I don't know where it came from, but I yelled and I went, why can't Daddy have his dream? My mom looked at me and, oh man, what did I just do? So we sat for a little while and ate. It was quiet. And then finally my mom said, you know what? Stevie said, why can't you have your dream? Let's go look at it. Great. Well, they bought the store. And this is the craziest thing that happened. 3 days later, there was a national food strike in the state of Maryland. Every Giant, Safeway, A&P, they all closed. We had to call every cousin, aunt, uncle, because we had lines around my dad's store. I mean, lines for weeks. And I always thought back, I thought, wow. I mean, my dad did it. It was his dream. He did it. But I thought to myself over and over, wow, what would have happened if I didn't listen to my body? If I didn't let it come out and I would have just swallowed it? Probably my dad wouldn't have had his dream, and we wouldn't have moved from the city to the suburbs and everything else that happened. But can anybody relate to that, where you have an instinct, you have a feeling, and then of course the question is, well, why do we push that down? A Lots of reasons. One is, culturally, a lot of times we're told, not to talk, not to express. And often what I've noticed is it'll go like this, where we learn that we don't know what we feel or we're not sure. Mommy, I'm really hot. I want to take my sweater off. You're not hot. I'm not? No, you're not hot. Thought I was hot. Nope, you're not hot. Oh, okay. Now what does that teach the child? Anybody? Just call it out. Yeah, don't trust my body. Negated my feelings. Maybe I don't know. That's what starts to happen. I thought I was hot. Maybe I wasn't. Because my mom knows more than I do, and we've had coaches and teachers and so forth. So ideas happen, inspirations happen, and often we push them down. So I wanted to learn more about that, and I started studying and learning, and I came up with a term called whole body consciousness. And whole body consciousness basically is that we're actually in a whole body, that we're actually listening to all aspects of us. Just imagine that. Our IQ, we understand something, we cognitively get it, or we're thinking about something. And then our EQ, where we actually can feel an emotion, and many of you have been learning about emotional intelligence, and of course, if I know what my feelings are, I might be able to empathize and have more compassion for your feelings. Well, I thought, well, why not BQ? What about, how does it feel when something happens? When there's a project handed to me, rather than just thinking about it and going to my emotion, I'll take a deep breath and feel into maybe there's a feeling there. How many times have we overridden feelings that we had? We had a feeling, but we just didn't give ourselves permission to feel that, or we just immediately, I know I was a real people pleaser, I would immediately say yes, and then afterwards be sorry. So I've been kind of training myself to go, let me take a breath and feel, not just think or just feel into my emotions, but actually feel into my physical body. Maybe I can learn something. Maybe there's something there, and I'll go more into that as we go along. So here's what I want to invite you to do. I want to invite you just to take a moment and read some of those quotes and just feel the fact that we have a mobile brain, as Deepak Chopra says in a great book, Candace Pert. It's a great book I recommend to learn more about cellular memory, that, we actually have a brain. There's a lot of research on the gut. You may have been finding out about this, but this Dr. Gershon is a great, great teacher. And the fact is, more and more we're learning that the gut actually has neurotransmitters and sensors. And when we feel that gut feeling, it's not just a feeling, it's actually some information that we could, if we listen to it, we might even make a better decision. And of course, you can see Dr. Pearsall, I don't know if you know, but they've been finding that heart transplant recipients are having all these characteristics of the person who, the donor's heart. And they go, wow, the heart's intelligent too. And of course, Krishnamurti says it by putting them all together. So here's what I want to invite you to do. Just for a moment, you can either close your eyes or do it with your eyes open. Just notice, what's the quality of my breathing right now? That sounds like a funny question, but here's the option. Am I breathing in my belly, or am I breathing up in my chest? Just take a notice. Is it easier to breathe in? I say that's really receiving oxygen. It keeps us alive. Sometimes it even correlates. If we have difficulty breathing in, we sometimes have difficulty receiving. And then other times if we have trouble breathing out, like easily, we have trouble expressing. But just notice the quality of your breathing for a moment. And notice if that brings, I call that the integrative conversation between our mind and our body. Starts with breathing. As long as I connect with my breathing, I can start to have that dialogue going. And you might notice a few things like, wow, I'm breathing up here. Well, if you're breathing up in your chest, you're in your sympathetic nervous system. You're basically in a fight or flight. If you were in the jungle and you needed to get up a tree, it would be awesome because you'd have your fight or flight to get you up. But if we're walking around that way most of the day, that means we're on alert. That means we're not really listening, we're kind of reacting, we're ready. Whereas if we breathe in our belly, we're in our parasympathetic, where we're more relaxed and we're able to see a wider view. So just take a moment with no judgment, just observe, take a breath. What's the quality of my breathing right now? Do I breathe from my belly or do I breathe from my chest? As I'm breathing, is it easier to breathe in or out? And is there any glitch or stop that's happening as I take a breath? So, did anybody just learn anything about your own body just from that one short moment? Please.
I had a little bit of catch breathing all the way in, a little catch in my chest.
Thank you. He had a little catch in his chest. Thank you. So what did you notice just by saying that out loud? Because part of what we're going to do today is we're going to notice and we're going to declare it. Get that brain and body in sync. What did you notice as you shared it? And thanks for doing that, by the way.
It was a little it was a little awkward to share.
Okay. And what are you feeling now? Take another breath if you would and just notice. See what's happening is, what's your name?
Leon.
Leon is having an integrative conversation. He's now saying, I noticed something. And as I say it out loud and declare it, notice anything else?
It sounds like you're wondering if it's gotten easier, and the answer is no.
No, I was just wondering, it could have been harder, it could be more energy. Yeah, thank you. The bottom line is that when we start to notice and get involved in our breath and our body.
Sorry about that.
Ask them to mute.
Yeah,
Ask them to mute.
Everybody, please mute your VC. Thank you. Thank you. So, did we stop breathing when that happened? I'm glad I didn't. So anyway, it's just an awareness to be aware. And thank you, Leon, for sharing that. Anybody else, just from that short little exercise?
Just the fact of paying attention, slow down breathing, very deep.
Just the fact that he paid attention to his breathing kind of slowed down his breathing. And how are you feeling?
More aware of.
More aware, which is what we want. Today we're going to work on a lot of attention on myself. How can I become more aware? What do I notice? How can I continue to practice that awareness so I can master it so that I can actually make some changes? And it's pretty exciting when we make those changes. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring you into BQ. And like I said, a low BQ means I don't know. Now, by the way, my fiance loves busting me because when I'm leaning over my computer running, she's into yoga, she'll run, honey, you're in slump asana. Oh, thank you. So often we forget. But what we're going to do today is we're going to become more aware so we're a whole body. So if somebody says something to us, rather than reacting, we might go, where do I feel that? How did that impact me? What do I notice? Okay? So right now I'm going to ask everybody to, we're going to take a test together. We're going to hand out our BQ test. Do we have those flyers somewhere?
Yes.
And just to have some more awareness about our connection with our body and mind. And I'm going to put that on for those that are. And I put it on the screen.
It's up there.
So that you can read it and we can all go through it together. So this is a little bit of an assessment, no judgments, just observing. So take a moment and get ready. Everybody's going to have a handout. Those of you that are remote, take it with us. And let's just look at this together. So the first question is, and by the way, I like to leave it up to you, meaning how do I grade myself? If you want to do like 1 is low and 5 is high, feel free. If you want to just feel, I call it the loop of awareness. Like when something's happening out here and I loop it back to myself, I'll just be able to do that loop of awareness and notice how it responds in my own body. So you might want to do that as you're answering these questions as well. If you feel like, hey, I want to make a score out of it, go 1 to 5. If you just want to have more awareness, just write down or feel into what it is. So the first question is, how often do you notice the quality of your breathing right now? Are you aware if it's shallow, deep, relaxed, short, or choppy? Just ask yourself that. How often do you check in with your breathing? Now I want to say I don't walk around all day long thinking about it, but like all habits, it's become more of a habit for me that I'm breathing. When Jenny was introducing me, I was breathing and scanning my body the whole time, just to notice so I could be really present and engaged when I got up here. Okay. How often do you consciously pause from what you're doing to take a few deep, full breaths? Just ask yourself that. Or I just saw a few people go, that's good. How often do you scan your body to connect with how you're really feeling? For example, do you check to see if your belly's relaxed or if your shoulders are crunched? Just to take a moment to say, how often do I actually scan my body so I can be in whole body consciousness, and not only what I'm thinking or feeling, but what is my body doing? So if I'm crunched over, it's good to know that. It's good to know if I'm grabbing onto something, I may be thinking about something that happened that morning. Doing that repetitively can cause a lot of problems, right? Like carpal tunnel and arthritis and all these problems that we create in our own health and wellness by not scanning our body. When you feel an uncomfortable sensation, pain, or emotion in your body, is your tendency to listen to what it might be telling you, or do you try to ignore or push it down? Just take that in, notice what it feels like in your body as you ponder that question, and maybe even make a note. Do you have a body-friendly vocabulary? Do you say things like, it's a pain in my neck. Oh man, that guy made me sick. Can you relate to those? You know, more and more information's coming out, and I learn this all the time working with people, that when we actually say something negative, because our body's so intelligent, it can actually impact it. I had a person I was working with, and he said that he had a pain in the neck, in the back of his head and neck for about 6 years. And as he was breathing and listening and really listening to that, I said, so what's your body telling you? What are you noticing? And, I'm starting to go back to like when it started 6 years ago. And this might sound funny to you, but I said, what happened 6 years ago? When did this start? And he said, well, I stopped paying the IRS. And I said, okay. So how does that feel when you say that? He says, well, I can just feel so much energy and pain in my neck. I said, well, here's the thing. And a lot of us are afraid of the IRS. They're not going to arrest you. They're going to probably work out a payment plan. Why don't you just see what happens? Call them up so you don't. Because what I said to him is, what do you do when you think about the IRS and you're not paying? And guess what he said? He said, oh, I usually just put that in the back of my head. Oh, you put it in the back of your head. So you're constantly thinking about something that's negative, and you crunch, and you say, I'll just put that in the back of my head. No kidding, true story, calls the IRS, they give him a payment plan. A week later he says, man, I haven't had a pain since, my neck ache went away. So I really want to stress how important that is, to watch your vocabulary. Don't take it out on your body. That's a pain in the neck, that makes me sick. Actually, over and over and over, you're sending a message from your brain down to your body, and your body's listening. Does that make sense? Okay. Are you aware of how congruent your words and your body language are? So do you say something, but if you notice, do you catch that your body's saying something else? Can anybody relate to that? When you're watching somebody, or you're communicating, you're talking to someone, they're saying one thing, but their body's saying something else. There's an incongruency, and we don't trust. We go, wow, that doesn't really feel like it's congruent. When you make decisions, whether small or large, do you listen to your body? I really highly want to recommend this. That when there's a decision to be made, when there's a question, take a pause and just take a deep breath and notice. Your body might be telling you something. Your body might remember. Your body might have a memory of something. Your body might be warning you. Often when we feel and hear things in our body, we ignore it, and then afterwards we say, gee, I wish I would have listened. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable do you feel in your body? So just take a moment and look at those questions, and I'd love to hear from anybody. Did any awareness, or did you learn anything, or anything happened for you as you went through the BQ quiz? Anybody? Thank you. So did everybody hear that? As a dancer, she was trained to listen to her body, but when in the opposite time, she would go, sure, I'll do that, and then, ooh. So you notice what happened. That would be a quick mental reaction, and then afterwards. So just taking a pause to go, what does that feel like? I wonder. Let me listen to that. And as we go on, you'll learn more about getting in there. I'm going to give you a rebooting technique and ways to go into your body and learn. Anybody else want to comment on taking that assessment, anything you learned about yourself?
This fourth question about what happens when you feel an uncomfortable sensation. So a couple weeks ago, Fred Luskin taught a class here.
Yeah, I know Fred.
Yeah. And so what I realized, what I've been doing is when I notice the sensation in the body, tension, I've had kind of a it's been sort of a false attribution. Like,
Mhm.
oh, that is because of something that happened long ago. And just recently I realized that I don't actually know. It's sort of a recurring story. Oh, that is because of that thing. And so now there's more of a space for a question. Why at this moment do I have this tension here? I actually don't know.
Okay.
And I can feel it without having to fill in the story of why.
Thank you. So basically, he's been learning and connecting with his body. Not necessarily, we don't always need to know the source of why our body's responding, but sometimes that source can give us a lot. I'm going to give some examples today of how knowing that source, for instance, as I got more into this, I started to get phone calls from people with problems or issues or something they wanted to move forward. So I got a call from a rock star. Okay, he's a rock star. I'm not trying to impress you, but it's a really good story that will get the point across. So the rock star calls me and he says, man, I've written tons of hits and I haven't been able to write in 3 months. I can't even get a lyric out. I don't know what has happened to me. What do you think it is? I said, well, come on up. And the first question I always ask is, what's your body telling you? Let's listen to your body. Because what's really interesting is, how do we get to that place? Oops, sorry. This quote, you can't solve a problem with the same thinking that created it. How often do we have an issue and we spin it in our mind over and over and over and over, and we're not able to get to it? So basically I had him breathe, like we're going to do today, and say out loud what he wanted. And he said, well, I want to write some hits and go out and get on tour again. And I said, well, I'm noticing some things. And he wasn't aware, of course. We're not often aware. I said, I notice as you say what you want, your body starts to cringe. Why don't we, instead of pushing that down, why don't we breathe and listen to the body even more? So as he starts to listen to his body and starts to really listen to it and say over and over and over what he wants, he notices he starts to have some memories because his body was telling him about those memories. And what happened was, he basically started to say things like, oh wow, the last time I had hits and I was on tour, my brother got jealous of me and I haven't been close with my brother since. Okay, what else happened? Well, gee, my parents thought, you're a big shot, and I really felt bad about, some things with relationships and people in my life, and then I was dating someone and we broke up. Wow, do you think that has anything to do with it? I said, well, absolutely. And what I did was I helped him look at a belief that he could be carrying in his body. Even though his mind wanted to write, his body wasn't allowing him. Can you relate to that? Where you want to do something, but your body's not going with it. So what we found out by breathing and into that is he had what I call viral belief. Viruses sit in the system and they're dormant unless we activate them. Well, what happened is when he thought about going out on the road again, when he thought about writing hits again, his body was saying, no. So what happened is we formed a formula there that said, if I go out on the road and if I write hits again, I'm going to lose people. Does that make sense? Because his body memory, just like if you had a bad relationship and you're hurt and you felt betrayed, the next time you go out on a date, you might be feeling like, I'm going to get hurt again. I'm going to get betrayed. You might not be thinking that, but your body memory might have that. So what happened is I had him really declare the truth around that. I want to write hits, and I'm afraid. I'm afraid that I'm going to lose people. And the more he said that, his body started to shake out that tension, and then we worked on a positive belief. As I write hits and go on tour, I'm going to get close with people, I'm going to make new friends, and all of a sudden, he's feeling good. Well, the good news is, I'm a musician as well, so we pulled out a guitar and wrote a song that night. And to be honest with you, I was really blown out because I keep learning in this all the time about the things that the body holds and what we can learn from it. That year, he wrote a new album. He got on the Oscars. His album was in a movie. And basically, he changed the writer's block because something he was holding on to got to be released, and then he got to, we spent a couple hours putting that new data into his body. As I go out and write new hits and go on tour, I will make new friends. I will be close with people. Because the body at first didn't believe it, but he was rewiring. So can you relate to that? Where sometimes you have something you want to do, but there might be a belief in there. I call those viral beliefs. So let me just go to that. So these viral beliefs live in our mind and our body. And what they do is they can strike us at any time. So here's a great example. I was sitting in the green room of a TV show, and I was really excited. And I'm thinking, wow, this is a big moment. My mind was so excited. But my body started to sweat profusely, and I had major anxiety. Steve Sisgold, you're on in 5 minutes. Oh, really? And I noticed I started to close up and have anxiety. Now I'm wondering why this happened, because my mind couldn't wait to get up. I was so excited. This is something I dreamed of. I wrote a book. I'm getting on national TV. I'm going to do my mission. I'm going to share. This is all my mental thought. My heart was in the right place. I was excited, but something in my body couldn't relax. So what I started doing was, Steve Sisgold, you're on in 3 minutes. In those 3 minutes, I started breathing and listening to my body and letting it go where it wanted. Often I could have gone out, right? Hi, how are you? And, kind of faked it and held back the anxiety. But instead, I trusted the process enough to just let it go and feel it and see what would happen. And what happened was, boom, a memory came back. I was right there. I'm on in 2 minutes and I'm having a memory. And the memory was, when I was young, I lived in a row house neighborhood with about 25 cousins, aunts and uncles. It was, every door was open. It was just a great scene, community. And then for the first time, my cousins and I decided, hey, we want to go out and see what's out there. So we're all excited. We leave the neighborhood. We go out to the main thoroughfare, Park Heights Avenue. We get out there. We're looking around, and a black, shiny Chevrolet pulls up. And the black, shiny Chevrolet, I'd never seen anything like it. A bunch of guys got out, and they were wearing these black jackets, and their hair was greased back, and they were not friendly. So basically what happened is they came up to us, they beat us up, and we ran home. So what was the viral belief that I learned that day? Call it out. Anybody?
Change is scary.
Change is scary.
No place like home.
No place like home.
Going into the unknown can be a real shocker. It may not go as well as you.
Yeah, going into the unknown isn't safe. And even though mentally I have overcome that and I'm public speaking and I'm out there, I never know when those viral beliefs are going to pop up. The difference is I'm aware of it. If I wasn't aware of it, I would have just said, oh, I'm nervous, and I would have gone out and done my best. But because I was aware of it, I had a couple minutes to go, let's separate the fact from the fiction. That happened then. Right now, I'm safe. And I just, in those 2 minutes, was breathing and shaking out that tension and saying into my body, as I go out to this TV interview, I will be safe. As I go, and all of a sudden my body got it and it relaxed. I was having this integrative conversation. And I went out there and had a great interview. But can you relate? Where you wonder sometimes, why does that happen? Why can't I make that connection? Why am I not having that success? Why am I creating the same relationships? There are these beliefs. And what these beliefs do is they'll pop up at any moment. They can pop up. So here's what I want to invite you to do. I want to invite you to talk to a partner for a moment. And first of all, pick a partner. And if you're out there and remote, you can do it by yourself or with someone else. Just pick someone that's sitting next to you. And choose right now who's going to be partner A and who's going to be partner B. Okay? So find a partner. Who's going to be partner A and who's going to be partner B? So take a moment to go, was I funny about being first or second? All of that. Just notice. Oh, what does that feel like in my body? Okay, so here's what I want to invite you to do. I want partner A to focus on something that you want. Something that you want. Something that you want here at Google in your career. Something that you want in your personal life around health or spirituality, relationships. Anything it is, focus on something that you want. Partner A, just take a moment, and as you're doing that, do that loop of awareness. Notice what's happening in my body right now as I'm thinking about having that. Okay? So partner one, take a moment. Tune into something like, I want to lose 10 pounds, or I want to take my team to the next level, or I want a new relationship, whatever it is. Okay? Now, partner one, Share it with partner 2. No chit-chat. Just share exactly what you want. Say it 3 times. Say it 3 times to your partner. What do you want? So let's come back to the center. Thank you. Partner 1, first of all, what did you notice in your body as you were sharing that with someone else? Anybody, what did you notice? Call it out.
I felt a strange sort of shortness of breath, and I also felt my heart rate go up.
Thank you. So when he said his desire, he felt a shortness of breath and his heart rate speed up. See? So your body's telling you something. And if you go deeper into that, you can find, what might that be? What might be blocking me from having what I want? Does that make sense? Yeah, because you actually said your desire out loud, and then we're watching what I call your billboard. Your billboard is saying things. Partner, any other partner A's want to share anything you noticed as you shared out loud your desire? What happened for you in your body? Anybody else?
My chest tightened.
My chest tightened as I said my desire.
Kind of the same thing, just anxiety, like nervousness to communicate what my desire was.
This is beautiful because you're using your body and your mind. You know, so many of us have dreams. I want to write this. I want to do that. I'll just push it away. But the point is, by saying it out loud and noticing, that's a portal. That's an access. That's a place to go to move that out of the way. Anybody else on partner A want to share? Sometimes it's just powerful to say it out loud.
I felt the same sort of experiences when it's like you expect something to sort of fall from above, and then it's like that kind of, and that was, it was what I was expecting, like it was like a voice saying, why don't you pick something that's actually possible?
Okay, there you go. He not only said his desire, he not only felt physically like, whoa, something's going to follow me, but he actually had a viral belief speak to him. You know, hey, why don't you pick something easier? Why don't you pick something possible? But the point is that this actually makes a difference. Because what happens is we can't move forward. What happens is the feeling in our body, I call it the but, I want but. The but overrides the desire, and that keeps us from moving forward. That keeps us from rising to the occasion for our team, our project, whatever it is. Now, does any partner B, do any partner Bs want to share anything you saw in partner A's body while they were sharing their desire? Please.
I think there was an openness of, like, you can see it after the first time they talk, it's like a development of trust. Like they're trying to trust you with information, so they're trying to trust themselves how they're going to say it, and also protecting the information when they say it, but then they get confident when they say it well the next time.
So he was noticing a shift of energy in the body, which is why I had you say it 3 times. First time he said it, whoop, protection, trust, I don't know. Second time it starts to loosen up. The third time, it's really important to ask for what you need, but also do that loop of awareness and notice, maybe that's something in here that happened in my past, like Steve's talking about, that might be holding me back. This is great information. This is self-awareness. This is ability to break a habit and actually move forward. I've done it over and over. I call it diving afraid. And what I mean by that is, you know, I used to live on Maui and people would have these dreams. I'm going to come to Maui and I'm going to jump off this special cliff, and I'd take them there and they'd get up there and they go, and they would just freeze. And then what would happen is they would walk back down. So the immediate comfort of being afraid got fixed. But, oh boy, walking down didn't feel good, and then flying home, oh, I had my chance, I had my chance. And that's what a lot of us do. We just don't move. I say dive afraid. I want to dive, and I'm afraid, and dive anyway. In other words, you're aware of where you're holding it in your body. You can move it, you can breathe it, you can shake that energy and move forward. And I do that all the time. I have fears, I have things come up, but I find it in the body, I release it. So now we're going to switch. So partner B, take a moment. And if we had more time, I would actually have everybody stand up and go even deeper into it. You'd be so pleased to say, wow, I think I got to the place where I now know what's in my way. My body told me. So partner B, take a moment and tune in to something that you really want in your life, in your career. Be willing to feel it. And as you're feeling that, what's happening in your body? Just the thought of having that. Take that awareness in. And then partner B, 3 times out loud to partner A. Go for it. Okay. Take a moment to wind it up. Okay, thank you so much. By the way, loving this participation. Thank you for being so present. Partner B, what did you notice as you were feeling into and thinking about your desire? Partner B, anybody? Call it out, please.
So mine was around getting work-life balance and being healthier. And as I was thinking it, I started to feel really calm and like almost feel like stress melt out of my body. And then when I said it, I was still feeling really calm, but it felt really different after I'd said it 3 times as well. It's kind of more, I don't know, determined or something like that.
This is beautiful. What she's saying is that when she wanted more wellness or health in her body liked it. Her body went, ah. And she started noticing tension melting away. Brain, body. She said it, and her body responded. As she said, what's your name?
Neve.
Neve? As Neve said it 3 times, she felt determination come up. Energy came into her body. Do you see the difference? First of all, we have a desire, and often we don't say it because somebody told us, oh, you can't have a desire, you won't ever do it, you can't do it. So we keep it down. But what Neve did was she said it to herself, declared it, her body felt it, and then as she expressed it to someone else, it even became stronger and she got determined. Any other partner Bs? I know we're going to leave time for questions, but I'm enjoying the interaction. Please.
The thought itself gave me a bit of relaxation, helping thinking of the outcome. But while communicating, I was not able to forcefully communicate that. It's like as I was saying something, my thoughts come in and say, "Can I really do it?"
Where did you notice that in your body? Basically, what he was saying was that I had a desire. When the thoughts came, I started to feel it in my body, but then as I was expressing it, things started to happen that would stop him from really saying it out loud. So what did you notice in your body as you were saying it out loud?
I didn't have any sense of anything, so my head was like nothing.
So you didn't have a sense of what in your neck?
I didn't feel my body anything below this.
He didn't feel anything below his neck. And that's what I call split, and we can get more into that another time. But basically, at times, we'll cut off parts of our body that have to do with our desires. And basically what he was saying, thank you for being so willing, is that as he felt it, it started to seep in. But that as he actually would take it to manifestation or action, or actually bring it out to the world, it's like the lower body just froze. Okay? So I want to just go into a little bit of why we do this. And this is a great book, by the way, if you want to learn more about the brain. I love this book. It's Joe Dispenza, Evolve Your Brain. And basically the key is that your brain is firing and wiring over and over and over. And that's what your brain looks, by the way. So just imagine all of these synapses firing every time your team leader drops something on your desk. You might react, you might call a friend, you might shut down, but imagine if you actually listened. There's something that my brain is telling my body. And if you start to listen to your body, you might go, as that happened, I felt something in my belly. And you could feel what that might remind you of. Because in communication, I love working with groups, because in communication, when we're aware of it, things change. I worked with a group, a hospital group, and this fellow, during these exercises, raised his hand. And he said, I have to tell my group something I've never shared. He said, when you pat me on the back and say, good job, I cringe. And they said, yeah, we know. You're not very, you don't like compliments. And they were actually, through the months and years, building this resentment. I tell Bill a good thing, and he freezes, and he looks at me like I did something wrong. See, there's no awareness. There's no communication. Bill tells his group, I had an older brother that used to slap me on the back about 20 times a day. Do you see what's happening? In the past, it's built into his wiring time after time after time, so that here you come up and go, good job, Bill. His mind likes that you said that, but his body has the memory. So guess what happens? He tells the group. Now we've got real intimacy. Now we've got authentic communication. Now the group says, Bill, man, that's great. We won't pat you on the back. Until Bill heals that old feeling, now we know. If you want to give Bill a compliment, don't slap him on the back. But the point is, number one, he had to get in touch with it in his own body. Number two, he shared it with other people. So I'm encouraging, and I'm not saying stand in the grocery line and say, hey, you know, when you did that, I had a thing in my belly. But in situations, it's so important when you're working with your team that you could just say, wow, I noticed when you came up with that idea, it's bringing something up in my body. And I just want to take a moment to find out what that is. What you'll find out is you'll get more information and you'll be able to communicate at a different level. Does that make sense? Everybody get that? Okay, great. So I want to just give you a couple more little things. Take a reboot and then we'll call out for questions, okay? So let's hand out the reboot. And I'm going to have everybody do this together. And I want to recommend, because people I've been doing this with and companies and organizations that do this, just imagine if the whole culture, if every one of us were rebooting once or twice a day to get back into our body, to get present, let go of tension. And I'm just going to give you this exercise and then we'll leave some time for questions. So the first thing is, when I notice that there's something going on that I can't get an answer to, I'm not creative, I'm not innovative, I'm stuck, the first thing I do is I disengage. I try to change consciousness from staying with that spin and that stuck feeling. So step one, commit. So commit to place your attention for the next few minutes on feeling everything in your body, okay? And thank you so much for doing this. Step two, let's all take 3 slow, deep, full breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. I like to do it through my mouth because it relaxes my jaw, which by the way is connected all the way down to your pelvis. It relaxes my body, and if I make a little sound, it actually sends kind of a relaxing feeling into my body. So it's kind of like, breathe from your belly, fill it up like a big beach ball, and on the exhale, just let it go. Do that 3 times, and just notice what starts to shift in your consciousness. Step 3, scan right now what's happening in your body from head to toe. Ooh, didn't know I was crossing my legs and so tight. Didn't know I was gripping my hand. Take a moment and just notice. And now just declare the 4th step, declare it to yourself like we did earlier. I'm noticing whatever it is, just notice. Now take an action that can benefit you. For instance, if you just discovered your shoulders are up to your ears, take a deep breath and drop them. If you notice something came up that you need to communicate with someone, make a mental note that you're going to communicate. Get it off your chest, if you will. Take a moment and just scan what's happening in my body right now. Whole body consciousness, from head to toe. Now on the 6th, just visualize, just breathe, and just breathe feeling like a wave, like and just visualize a wave as you're breathing. And now tune into something as you uncross your legs and you relax your belly and you open your eyes. Take a moment to breathe in an action that you want to take today. Breathe it in. And then on the exhale, breathe out. I do this, by the way, all the time. When I come up with an idea, the first thing I do is I breathe it in to take it into my body. And then when I breathe it out, I imagine it like it's going to go out to the world. I'm going to express it out. It's going to manifest. So I do that often. I breathe in my visualization, and then I breathe out the action that I'm going to take. So take a moment and really do that. See the wave, feel your whole body, and focus on one action that you want to take and actualize today. Now, love to hear from anybody. What did you notice from rebooting, from doing those 7 steps? Anybody want to share what you noticed?
It was a nice way to spend a few minutes.
It was a nice way to spend a few minutes. Basically, you disengage and you reboot. Just like the computer, just like a television, something happens, we need to reboot. So we're basically taking time to go into our body and kind of get set. I always say it's to get set. I do it when Jenny was talking, that's what I was doing sitting there. I was breathing, noticing, scanning, getting focused, breathing my intention out, in and out, and then I came. Anybody else want to comment on that? Okay. So I just want to end and continue to have questions by saying this, by the way, was tested. I've just done this in a doctor's office. 3 MDs and a biochemist, biofeedback, actually did work with several machines studying the heart variability and the pulse pattern and the heart rate and the coherence and the lower stress. And if what you notice is stress was reduced. So what I'm saying is you can use this as a stress reducer to just get set. Secondly, you can really use this, as we've been doing, to discover what might be some beliefs that I'm carrying in my body that could keep me from having what I want. And I do exercises around purpose like this, really tuning into what my purpose is, aligning it with the organization. So here's what I want to end with before I get a couple questions from you. I want to ask, what commitments will you make today to raise your BQ, your resiliency, your awareness? You know, resiliency is a big word now. And basically the way it's used is I'm going to bounce back. How I cope, how I react and navigate myself back to well-being. That's the definition of resiliency. What I'm trying to do is have that wide gap in resiliency and me get lower, meaning I don't have to keep getting knocked down to bounce back. If I'm breathing, I'm scanning and listening to my body, understanding my viral beliefs, and doing practices like this so I can master being awake and aware, what I notice is I don't have to get knocked down and be resilient to come back. It becomes a state. Resiliency becomes something that's like on the tip of who you are. It's just there, you know, you're able to in the moment, ooh, when he said that, what did that feel like? Where do I feel that? Let me shake that energy out and let me rewire a new thought. So does that make sense? That's the key to resiliency, is to stay present. So any questions? Anybody want to share anything? Any questions from today, or do you want to declare one of your commitments out loud? Yeah, please.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you know whether bodily reactions in different parts of your body mean different things?
That's a great question. Do bodily reactions mean different things? Now, there are people out there like Louise Hay and so forth that say, you know, if you're itching, that means you're itching about this, or if you feel that, and that's great work. My work is more about being in the moment and noticing. For instance, I work with a woman who's got can't breathe in my chest. As she tunes into it, she feels some anger around when her grandfather died and she didn't get to express it. She was told to hold it in because he was in heaven. All of a sudden she has asthma. Hers was in the chest. But somebody else might have, like, my hand just wants to do, I'm mad about that. So my teaching is listen to your body, take the time to breathe and feel it. Let it organically do whatever it wants to do. If it wants to shake, let it shake. It might tell you something. The movement of the organic body, because it was there from day one. Your body remembers everything. Your body, if you allow it to express itself, could give you wisdom and knowledge. So rather than saying, oh, if it's in my neck, that means I can't, I'm not flexible, I'm not willing to look. There's something to that. But I find that, because I've done this so many times with people, that everybody, because of our past history, is carrying different things in different parts. So, does that help? Thank you. Any other questions or responses or commitments you want to make?
A question. In the beginning, you mentioned the law of attraction, and I just started reading the Jerry and Esther Hicks.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard of that one?
Of course.
What are your thoughts on law of attraction, or do you incorporate that?
Beautiful. I worked with a woman, Shakti Gawain, who was one of my first clients, creative visualization. And people thought, oh, you just sit and you visualize. And a lot of people watched The Secret and the Law of Attraction and said, I'm still visualizing, my car didn't show up or my person didn't show up. And what I find is the law of attraction as a mental thing, I know you all have to go, the law of attraction as a mental thing to me isn't enough. What I find is that I want to feel into the body. So here's the bottom line. If I'm sitting and thinking over there, I'm going to do a great job, but I'm not embodying it, I'm probably going to get up here and stumble. So what I'm working on is the real law of attraction is when it's in my body. So I can walk in a room and say, yes, I teach stress management, and my body's congruent with it. What I have found and what people I'm working with found, that everybody's body is like a billboard. It's putting out messages. And if your body is embodying like, yeah, I can do this. I deserve to have a good relationship. I'm going to be number one on my team. I'm going to take this project to the next level. And you embody it, what's going to happen is you're going to walk in and that law of attraction, you're going to magnetize it better than if your body isn't aligned with your desires. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I think the law of attraction is embodying it, IQ, EQ, and BQ. Any other questions? I know you have a lunch break, or we're ending at 1. I like to keep on time. Any other thoughts, questions? Does anybody want to say out loud what your commitment is, please?
So when you say go actualize it, so what is actualizing? Is it just...
That would mean that you're visualizing it and then grounding it through your body and actually taking it into action. So it might be, I'm really going to do that exercise. I'm really going to communicate. I'm really going to write that proposal. I'm actually going to take it into the body and have it actualized versus just a thought. Most of us have so many thoughts, but we don't have the courage or the wisdom to take it into the body and actually make it happen because of everything we talked about earlier. Any other thoughts or feelings before we end? I just want to end on time, please.
Just the commitment for me today is to actually take the time to listen to my body and ask for the time.
Beautiful. What's your name?
My name is Susan.
So let's try this. Let's wrap it up with Susan. Susan, if you would be willing to stand up. Okay, thank you, Susan. So say it out loud, and let's all watch Susan's body, because she's ready to make a new commitment today. Say it out loud, Susan.
Starting from today, I'm going to take the time to listen to my body.
Stay right there. How did it feel to share that? Because thank you, this is very powerful. How did it feel to say it out loud?
It's simple, but I feel pitter-patter right here.
Pitter-patter. So again, if we had more time, we'd go into what is that pitter-patter? How did it look out here? What did you notice as Susan was sharing? Anybody?
She looked quite comfortable.
She looked comfortable.
She was smiling.
She was smiling. See, that's the law of attraction. She's going to attract that. She's going to manifest that because it's in her body. However, if she would have gone up and said, you know, I'm going to commit to listen to my my body more, I would say, I'm not sure. So we'd be working on her embodying it so then she can have it. Really go out and get it. Thank you. Yeah. So I'd just like to end with saying thank you for coming. Secondly, your body is your ally, it's your coach. I'll be around if you have questions. Feel free to email me or get in touch with me. Be glad to answer anything I can. I hope this was helpful and you'll take it into your day. Practice your reboot techniques. Thanks for shaking your heads. Fill out the feedback forms. And thank you very much for coming today.